There are nights when silence isn't peace, it's a warning. In a quiet California town, a retired black professor laced up her shoes and clipped the leash on her dog like she always did. But this walk wasn't like the others. This time, someone was waiting. A patrol car. Officers. Eyes that followed, not with concern, but with calculation. What they didn't see coming was the dog beside her. A war-trained guardian, bred in loyalty and built for battle. And what none of them knew, not the cops, not even her, was that someone else was watching from above, with a camera rolling. Santa Clara was the kind of town that wore its calm like a badge. Tree-lined streets, golden sunsets over the Pacific, neighbors who waved just enough to feel polite, but not enough to get involved. Helena Whitmore had lived here for 20 years, retired linguistics professor, a widow, 68 years old with more steel in her spine than most men twice her size. Her walks weren't just routine, they were ritual. She walked at dusk, the hour her wife Naomi used to love, and always at her side, Valor, the last dog Naomi ever trained during her time in the military. A Belgian Malinois with the discipline of a soldier and the instincts of a sentinel. People called him just a dog. Helena called him memory on four legs. The tags around her neck, Naomi's, clinked softly with each step. They weren't for show. They were armor. But even armor can't stop a chill in the wind. Lately things had shifted. Fewer hellos, longer stares. A police cruiser that kept showing up in places it had no business being. And Helena, wise enough to know the difference between presence and surveillance, felt it in her bones. This town's quiet wasn't safety anymore. It was silence. Loaded. At first it was subtle. A cruiser parked at the end of her street. No lights, no siren, just idle. Watching. The next night it returned. Then again the next. Always the same faces. Sergeant Logan Price, square-jawed, smug, and polished. Officer Elias Carter, always tapping his baton like he was bored with peace. And the rookie, Matt Riley, too young to know what he was becoming. Helena didn't speak to them. She didn't need to. She knew this language. She'd studied it, taught it, lived it. She'd seen it on college boards and in faculty lounges when her degrees weren't enough to stop a man from questioning her authority. This wasn't about a crime. This was about presence, about a black woman who refused to shrink, a woman who walked proud, who wore dog tags outside her sweater, who didn't smile to make white neighbors feel comfortable, and it unnerved them. Valor felt it too. His posture shifted before hers. His steps slowed at corners. His ears twitched at the idle hum of a squad car. He was reading the air like it carried code. And it did. The message was clear. You don't belong here. Not like this. Not proud. Not unafraid. Helena knew better than to pretend otherwise. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a message wrapped in silence, stamped with a badge. They didn't have to say a word. Their silence did the work. One night, they followed her to the dog park. Didn't get out. Just leaned against the cruiser, arms crossed, eyes locked. Another day, they showed up outside the cafe she visited every morning. 3 cops for a corner that hadn't seen a traffic ticket in months. She switched her route, walked through busier streets, past storefronts and cameras. But even that didn't stop them. The town changed too. People who once nodded now looked down. Conversations ended when she approached. At the hardware store, the old man who used to call her Professor H now muttered aggressive, just loud enough to sting. She knew what they were doing. They wanted her rattled. They wanted her loud, angry, anything they could twist into a report. They wanted her to flinch first so they could justify whatever came next. But Helena didn't flinch. Not on the outside. Inside, rage, but not the kind that burns fast, the kind that simmers, slow, ancestral, and unforgiving. She stopped opening her windows at night, started locking her gate. Every day she tied on Naomi's tags and told herself the same thing her wife once did before every mission. Walk like they can't erase you. So she did. The evening started like any other. Fog rolling in from the coast. That familiar hush in the trees. Helena chose the quieter trail behind the old mission. Naomi's favorite. Gravel crunched beneath her boots. Valor trotted close, ears alert. Halfway through, the hairs on the back of her neck stood up. She turned. A cruiser, no lights, no siren, but moving, slow, deliberate. She felt it in her chest. This was different. They weren't watching anymore. They were closing in. The car stopped just behind her. Doors opened. Logan Price stepped out, grinning like he'd already won. Elias Carter followed, tapping his baton. Matt Riley stayed in the car, his face pale, unreadable. "Evening, Professor," Logan called. "Beautiful night, huh?" Helena didn't respond. She shifted slightly, placing Valor between them. "Just making sure everyone feels safe," he continued. "Are you?" she asked. "Because I don't." Elias chuckled, circling. "Defensive, don't you think? Big dog, empty trail, looks odd." "He's on a leash," she said, steady, "as required by law." Logan stepped closer. "Perception matters." Elias moved in, reaching toward her tags. "A violation, calculated." Helena whispered one word. "Guardich." In a flash, Valor surged, not attacking, not biting, just planting himself between them, growling low. Elias stepped back. Logan's hand went to his holster. "Call him off," he snapped. "He hasn't touched you," Helena said, calm. "Neither have I." And above them, hovering unseen, a drone's tiny eye blinked in the sky, recording every second. Miles Carter was 16, a kid with a drone and a dream of becoming a filmmaker. That night he was just testing his new gimbal. The sun was setting. He wasn't looking for a story, but the story found him. Through his drone's camera, he saw a lone woman on the trail, a cruiser behind her, then 2 officers stepping out. He zoomed in. He saw the circling, the reach, the dog's movement. He didn't hear the words, but the posture told everything. Power pretending to be procedure. Threat disguised as patrol. Miles didn't flinch. He recorded the whole thing. No commentary, no edits. Just truth in motion. That night he uploaded it online, and by morning the world had seen what Santa Clara had tried to ignore. The footage spread like fire. No voiceover, no excuses. Just a woman surrounded, a dog standing guard, and silence broken by a teenage eye in the sky. The town split. Some called Helena a hero. Others said she provoked it. Why walk alone? Why wear the tags? Her mailbox was spray-painted, LIAR. Then the next day, someone left lilies at her doorstep. No note, just flowers. At the co-op, the cashier who used to hug her now avoided eye contact. "You should have just let them talk," he muttered. "They didn't touch you." Helena replied, "Sometimes the threat is the silence." She didn't watch the video. She didn't need to. She had lived it. But she felt the shift, the tide pulling, the town's mask cracking. For every hater, there was someone watching quietly. Someone who whispered "thank you" at the dog park or left a sunflower on her porch. And that's what injustice does. It doesn't just expose the hateful, it reveals the hesitant. It forces you to choose, stay silent or stand up. They tried to twist it, said the officers were just concerned, said Helena was combative, said the dog was dangerous. Helena sat in court, Naomi's tags over her blazer like medals. Valor wasn't allowed inside, but she felt him waiting outside. When the footage played, the courtroom fell silent. No narration, no music, just raw fear and raw truth. Then she took the stand, calm, clear. When the prosecutor asked, "What did you feel when he reached for your tags?" she said, "I felt like I was being erased." The defense lawyer tried to poke holes. "Isn't it true you wore those tags to make a statement?" "Yes," she replied, "to remind myself who I am, because this world keeps trying to make me forget." By the time she stepped down, even the jury looked different. Faces that once held skepticism now held something else. Understanding, maybe even shame. It took hours. The room held its breath. Helena stood tall, hands folded, back straight. The foreperson read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. She didn't cry, didn't smile, just nodded. Logan Price looked stunned. Carter leaned back like he'd lost a game he thought was rigged in his favor. Riley stared at the floor. Helena walked out to the courthouse steps, where Valor waited. He rose, pressed into her side like he knew. Maybe he always had. And in the crowd, a little girl stepped forward. "You were brave," she whispered. Helena didn't look back, just forward. Helena walks the trail again now. Same gravel, same oaks. But the silence has changed. It carries weight. It carries truth. A young jogger passed her recently and said, "Thank you for not backing down." Helena didn't answer, just nodded, because dignity doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just keeps walking. She never asked to become a symbol. She asked to be left alone. But when silence became a cage, she chose to speak. That's what legacy is. Not comfort, not approval, but presence. Even when unwelcome. Even when dangerous. Especially then. And if you ever doubt what difference one walk can make, remember Helena Whitmore. A woman who didn't raise her voice, but who stood so still, the world had no choice but to listen.